The trend of companies creating their own thought leadership book continues. Rolepoint is the latest example. Rolepoint are a US software company in the HR tech space. They provide referral software tool. So as you can imagine, companies want to have their existing employees refer new employees. And that is what employee referrals are all about. And Rolepoint have created thought leadership books to promote themselves. Now, what is the idea of a thought leadership book? You may have heard me talking about it before. It is essentially a blog post or a white paper on steroids. Within content marketing, there are many ways, many formats that you can have. But one underestimated format is a printed book. Why? Because there's online content overload. Everybody is creating content online. There's blog posts and white papers and all of that. But a physical book, if it lands on the desk of a potential customer of yours, that says a couple of things. First of all, we're very generous with what we have to offer, with our ideas. We want to share it with you. Second, it shows we have the resources to do this kind of stuff. It's a little bit like the intellectual equivalent of a fancy lobby, right? Because it does take quite a bit to create something like this, which signals we are a solid company. And thirdly, it also means you stand out, right? There's in this online content overload space, when you have a printed book that you can put on somebody's desk, it means that you will get noticed because few companies do that. So that's the idea of a thought leadership book. And now what Rolepoint have done in 2017, they have created their first book. It's called the Employee Referral Guidebook or something like that. I don't remember. This one is new. It's called Talent Knows Talent. And it's a full-blown A5 hardcover book. And what I wanted to do in this video is to take you through some of the elements of the book that make it really good. And maybe this inspires you if you yourself are thinking, that sounds like a really good idea. We could also do a book like this. Maybe that'll inspire you to do what they did well and maybe to avoid some of the things that they didn't do so well. So let's look straight into the book. So first of all, the book has a really good structure, right? The title says it all, 5 employee referral elements. It has The structure is even clearly delineated with colors. They talk about what are the objectives you want to reach, what are the incentives you want to give to your existing employees, and what education do you want to provide to them, what is the communication around it, and what technology should you be using. So that is a good structure that they are following through within the book, and you can easily navigate to anything that in particular interests you. Number 2, there's also a hidden internal structure, which is quite clever what they did. Namely that the four main chapters of objectives, incentives, education, and communication are all value providing. But the chapter about technology is a little bit self-serving because when you read through it, it essentially provides a reason for Rolepoint to exist. Like they say it should be mobile enabled so that employees have it easy, integrate social networks with it, and so on. So there is a lot of elements that then Rolepoint can say, oh, and by the way, we do all of that, right? So that is a very smart move. In the end, the book needs to sell. That's its ultimate purpose, while also providing value. The book does a really good job in combining value with sales, right? And that is exactly how it should be. The next benefit is it's very light reading, so it's very visual. It looks a bit like an infographic, so that is good because you can just skim it. The slight drawback of it is sometimes I feel it lacks a bit of depth. That is your choice, right? I'm not saying that it's necessarily a good thing if you're really deep and intellectual about it. So that really very much depends on you and the brand you want to portray. So there's elements to it, but this kind of structure that they have sometimes leads to a couple of topics probably not explored as much in depth as you would want to. But then of course, the topic of employee referrals is a wide one and it's difficult to give all the important elements justice when you are creating a book that you want to keep to, let's say, 120 pages like this one. The next positive aspect of the book is social proof. In the beginning section of the book and on the back cover, they provide a lot of quotes and testimonials from people who have found the book useful. That is a good idea to do before you publish. Send the draft to some of your target audience who you are friendly with and ask them for a quote and tell them that this quote will then be on the cover of the book. Many will do that, and with this you receive 2 benefits. First of all, you get the social proof. Number 2, you will get quite likely, the occasional tweet about the book being out because they have been asked to provide a quote and a testimonial. Also inside the book, there's a lot of quotes on specific topics that they want to underscore by having a practitioner say something about this topic. So again, very well done on this point. I think you could increase this effect if you not only allow them to provide quotes, but if you gave them room to write whole articles. And that is exactly what we've done in the book we at Content 360 have published with Benevo. These books consist only of third-party articles. There's some articles from Benevo as well, but it mainly consists of articles from third parties, which has led to Benevo receiving half of the books ordered from sources that were other than Benevo. There were third parties quoting the book, mentioning it, and therefore you increase your reach if you have other people mentioning the book. The next benefit, there's a lot of checklists inside the book that allows you to evaluate how you yourself are performing in the topic of employee referrals, especially the summary checklist in the end, which is very good, which fulfills two purposes. Number one, it allows you to go through the structure of the book all over again. Number two, it allows you to grade yourself in these different areas. And number three, smartly, it again allows you to show how poorly you are doing, because most likely you will have very few of these elements in place, because most companies don't have a formalized employee referral program in place. So by realizing how poorly you are most likely doing, it will reinforce the need for, hey, maybe we should use Rolepoint, because it will help us to become better in our employee referral program. And then finally, there's a lot of further reading. They provide links to other resources that you can use if you are serious about your employee referral policy. And that serves two purposes. Number one, again, it's very useful. So you provide content to your audience and they will be grateful to you. And number two, it allows you to track who of your audience has downloaded what, and you can link somebody who has ordered the book to somebody who has also downloaded an additional white paper or another resource. And you can then target them much more precisely based on the content that they have viewed. So how did the book perform as a content marketing asset? You want to see some ROI on it after all. So this is what JP Bertram, the head of marketing at Rolepoint, told me. He said, most of the time we give the books away freely at conferences. Salespeople have them on hand for in-person pitches and also use the books as immediate post-pitch follow-ups. The feedback they provided was that the book was instrumental in portraying our differentiators outside of the technology itself. Many prospects we meet at conferences later remember the book when we pitched them, referencing it as a helpful tool that gave them ideas of things they'd like to do with their employee referral programs. He also mentioned that influencers in the space were raving about the book. And then he mentioned numbers. He said, altogether we paid $25,000, I believe, for all of the currently 15,000 printed copies of the 2017 book, including shipping. Through our CRM, we can definitely tie one deal as closed won with an annual contract value of $23,000, and they're on pace to renew for about that figure, if not slightly more. Outside of that, there's an additional 90,000 of contracts still active in the pipeline related to the book. And this is how these things generally are in enterprise sales. You cannot really attribute one specific piece of marketing to a successful deal closed. The real visible ROI that JP Bertram talks about in his numbers is like the tip of the iceberg. And the real value of the book lies in the long-term benefit, those unexpected, intangible things that cannot be properly anticipated nor accounted for. So if you yourself are inspired to create your own thought leadership book, get in touch with us. This is what we at Content 360 do. Although we didn't do this one, we have done several others, so we would be very happy to help you with your own thought leadership book production. This is what we at Content 360 do. Contact me at michael@content360.com and I see you soon. If you like this video, by the way, subscribe to it on YouTube or give me a like on LinkedIn and on Twitter, and I see you in the next one.